Even if our troops come home tomorrow, we're still morally responsible for Iraq and the Middle East. And with DU, we have already destroyed the genetics of so many of our own soldiers, of so many of the people in Iraq, and all through anywhere we've ever been. And then where DU is used on our bases today. How can we address this as an overriding sense that they have fundamentally changed the genetics of so many people and have contaminated the world with a product that will be here in a half-life of 4.4 billion years?
Well, people always say, oh my gosh, George Bush might drop a nuke on Iran. Well, he's already waging a nuclear war in the Middle East. And I believe that, you know, if I was queen of the world, then our military-industrial complex would be changed to environmental cleanup. They would go to every base. Everywhere we are, like she said, is a Superfund site. The harbor of Pearl Harbor, the native Hawaiians can't fish there anymore. They can't swim there because of the U.S. military. But we do owe the people of Iraq so much. I wrote a piece yesterday called "Harming Civilians is a War Crime." Even if this war, let's pretend this war was justified. Let's pretend Iraq was a threat to the United States of America. Let's pretend that they were responsible for 9/11 and had weapons of mass destruction. Even if that was all true, when you occupy a country, you're responsible for the civilians. You're responsible for food, clean water, medical care, and security. And we have failed the people of Iraq in all. And a big thing, you're not supposed to kill civilians. And we have failed the people of Iraq tremendously on that. We have failed our own soldiers, like you say, who are contaminated with depleted uranium. I know many who have tested positive and are ill because of that. Not only from this war, but the first Gulf War. I think it's something like 160,000 have died from the Gulf War syndrome, that it really is just depleted uranium sickness. So what we do is we create this people's movement that will work really hard to overturn the military-industrial complex that kills our children, that harms our children, that kills innocent people, that makes wastelands out of foreign countries and even our own country. So this is what we have to do. And like the Rev said, we can't let up. We can't let them get away with it anymore. We have to realize that this is our unique moment. Thank God for the internet. If it wasn't for the internet, we'd all be ignorant. We would all still think that Saddam attacked us on 9/11. So we do have to keep very vigilant, and for Peace Kid right here, you know, for the other young people are here. We can't give up. Like I said, they deserve a better world than we have. That's for sure. Well, I'm sure Rev has something to say about this too. With 70% of the country against the war, why aren't more people getting involved? Well, it's one thing to be philosophically against the war and one thing to be physically against the war. And what's happening is, I said in my speech that the neocon agenda has been working in this country since the Ford administration. They did away with forced conscription. That was a big, motivation for people to get out during Vietnam. They also have consolidated all of the media into 5 entities. All of the corporate media, thank God for progressive media, they're owned by war profiteers, by people who profit off of war. So these are the things, first of all, to keep us ill-informed, and uninformed. You know, there's days when I just, 8 soldiers get killed in Iraq, but we don't hear about that. We hear what was in Anna Nicole's refrigerator when she died. You know, it's a concerted effort to not education. There's with this No Child Left Behind, they're not taught to think for themselves. They're not taught to have critical thinking skills. It's real easy when it's an all-volunteer army to say, oh, well, they volunteered, you know. Because people tell me all the time, your son volunteered, as if that gave George Bush and Dick Cheney the right to kill him for lies and for oil. So there's a lot of reasons why people are apathetic. I think one of the main reasons is that we're a very consumer-driven capitalist society, and we only care about our comfort level, what we can buy, what we can afford, trying to keep up with our neighbors because they can't, be able to buy and afford more than we can. So it's just all, it's been designed, this way with a neocon agenda. I would recommend one film that's absolutely fabulous about that, and if I can remember what it's called, I'd recommend it to you. The Power of Nightmares. It's how the neocon agenda fit perfectly with the terrorist agenda, and how they, they have, when communism ended, they have a new thing for us to be afraid of, and it's terrorism.
So I'll just follow up on that. I think that Cindy is right on all of that. I think, how many of you see the hands quickly of those who were born, I guess, after 64? Well, good. That's a great. So then, for us, it's important to note that our parents beat Jim Crow. Black people, white people. People came together and they beat Jim Crow. The problem, from your point, this kind of get to your 70%, is that Jim Crow, this is my analogy, Jim Crow had kids. And so our parents had kids. But Jim Crow's kids, as I call it, is not Jim Crow, but I give him a name. I say James Crow Jr. Esquire. James is much more sophisticated than Jim. So James understands that I will control the media. James has learned, so he's not going to have the straw hat and the straw in the mouth mentality. James is going to do it through gentrification. James is going to do it through the banks. James is going to create wars in which, unlike Vietnam, we can't see the cast. He's learned a lot in that process. So we have to recognize that the same way that there is now James Crow Jr. Esquire, we have to also become, our generation has to be much more sophisticated. So one thing I would say for that, to increase the numbers, you're right. So the numbers are saying 70%, and I think it's more, people who want, and they did. And we say the pros to that. They did get involved. November 7th of 2006, after we were our morale was just decimated from seeing our troops being sent away. Our morale was decimated by watching 5 days while people died in the streets of New Orleans and on the Gulf Coast. Decimated from the seeing that we were lied to as far as torture and spying, and continue to have torture in Guantanamo. So many things going on, so many untruths, not getting out the truths for 9/11 and some other aspects to that. Just decimated. But on the other side, for us, what we must now do is continue to speak out. Recognize that certain different moves and marches may not work as well for our generation, do different things. Recognize, as I said, the revolution may not be televised, but it will be uploaded. So we got to be YouTube and all these different things to continue to put the word out there. And then I think that we can really begin to galvanize and energize and mobilize that 70%. And I don't think we can lose hope. I think that just by the mere fact that I'm sitting here and Cindy's sitting here and you're sitting there, recognize, I think that we have that. So I think that we have to continue to push forward. And I do think this. I think that we will. I think I'm a person who believes that, and this, I could be wrong, but I believe organized people trumps organized money. And what you're seeing now with Pelosi and Bush is organized money. But I believe organized people beat organized money. And I think the more that we continue to organize the people, then these people who can continue to do things in money, that too will go away.